my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these DIY macrame wall hangings. Let's get started. First, what you're going to need is a 12-inch wooden dowel, 3mm macrame cord, and a pair of scissors. First, you'll want to cut your macrame cord into 18 4-foot long strands. Then, folding each of the strands in half, create a loop that you will then attach to the dowel using what's called a lark's head knot. So take the loop and put it over the dowel and then pull the two strands through. Now pull tight, and this creates what's called a lark's head knot. As you can see, I also used another piece of cord and attached that to either end of the dowel. This allowed me to hang it to a hook on the wall. Hanging this up makes it a lot easier to make the wall hanging. Now you can attach all 18 strands to your wooden dowel. So now that all 18 strands are attached to your wooden dowel, we're going to create a row of square knots. And if you need a more in-depth look on how to create square knots, you can reference my DIY macrame keychain video, which I will link below. For this project, we're leaving 2 strands on either end hang and creating square knots all along the top. We're then going to create a second row of square knots. To create the second row, you're going to take the 2 far left strands of the very first square knot you made and group them with the 2 far right strands of the square knot next to it. And this creates another row of square knots underneath. So as you can see, with each new row of square knots, you're going to leave 2 more strands hanging at the end, and this will eventually form a triangle. So now that all the square knots are complete, your next step is to create a line of double half-hitch knots down either side of the triangle. And to get a more in-depth tutorial on how to create the double half-hitch, again, you can reference the DIY macrame keychain tutorial I have linked below. So now that the V of the double half hitch is complete, we're going to create a V of square knots, leaving a little bit of space in between. So to do this, take the first 4 strands at the end and create your first square knot. Then to create the second square knot, you're going to take the far 2 left strands and join them with the next 2 strands, creating a second square knot. You're going to do this all the way down on either side. And finally, for this wall hanging, we're going to create another line of the double half hitch knots along either side of the V of square knots. So once we're done with all the knots, we're going to cut the ends of the cord used to hang our wall hanging. And finally, we're going to cut the ends of our strands to the desired length. We're then going to untangle and fray each strand. And for me, as a personal preference, I like to use my dog's hairbrush just to fray out the ends. For the second wall hanging, I'm going to skip creating the triangle of square knots and start with a V of the double half hitch knots. I'm then going to do another V of square knots on either side, again leaving space in between. And again, we're going to create another row of the double half hitch on either side of the V of square knots. And finally, for this wall hanging, we're going to create another row of the double half hitch along either side. Then, to match the length of the first wall hanging, I'm simply laying the second hanging over the first and cutting the ends to the same length. I'm again fraying each strand and brushing out the ends. And there you have it, 2 small DIY macrame wall hangings.
If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button below, and of course, don't forget to subscribe for more DIY and household projects. Bye!